practicing malpractice. You should resign.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Secretary Noem, Hurricane Helen tore through western North Carolina almost a year and a half ago, killing more than 100 people and causing more than $60 billion of damage. 2 months later, Congress passed a bipartisan disaster package, which included $29 billion for FEMA Disaster Relief Fund covering several states. And yet, despite this, countless North Carolinians have spent 2 winters paying mortgages and taxes on homes that are unlivable and may not even exist anymore. They have been waiting in limbo for your department to sign off on recovery funding. And I know Representative Kiley raised similar issues in his state. North Carolina's counties have had to step up to fill in the gap, spending their limited taxpayer funds on recovery and repair, with the expectation that they would swiftly be reimbursed by the federal government. And yet, many of these counties have not been reimbursed until this week, but we'll get to that. Meaning that they have had to use all their money and not have money for their essential services, public schools, EMS, other public services, healthcare, and everything else. And I have met with some of the county executives who have struggled with their budgets while recovering from Helene. These delays in paying out this desperately needed recovery funds are simply unacceptable. And you heard that from my Republican senator, Senator Tillis, yesterday. Your new policy, and it is a new policy, requiring your personal sign-off on expenditures over $100,000 has contributed to many of these delays, creating a bottleneck, blocking reimbursement for hundreds of millions of dollars of disaster funding that stand directly between North Carolinians and that relief. In fact, Senator Tillis, as I'm sure you remember, lambasted you and the failure of your department in dispersing these funds. And then magically, about $80 million got released today, for which we're thankful. But we shouldn't have to have a U.S. senator or a representative or another representative come to you directly to get you to do your job. But we also know that you had time to sign off on the purchase of 2 luxury private Gulfstream jets for your personal travel, $170 million. And we've heard about the new Boeing 737 that you're in the process of outfitting. Evidently, you were satisfied that there was no fraud, waste, and abuse involved in the jets. But meanwhile, could you tell me whether you found any fraud, waste, or abuse in these North Carolina expenditures?
You know, Congresswoman, what I would tell you is that Joe Biden failed North Carolina.
Listen to me. I asked you a direct question. Joe Biden provided greater relief. Joe Biden showed up.
No, he
Joe
didn't.
Biden didn't lie about what was going on the ground. I don't even want to get into what Donald Trump did during the campaign, the misinformation that was put out there. And you cannot find the time until my senator berates you in public to approve this money. Individual members of Congress should not have to come to you. Our counties, our struggling counties in the western part of the state, are some of the most rural counties. They are poor counties. They do not have the money to front for you.
In the months that we have been here, we have deployed billions of dollars, billions more than what the Biden
I am reclaiming my time. You have been too slow. I have heard this from Republican county commissioners. I have heard this from administrators. I have been in the western part of the state. I know exactly what's going on, and you have turned a blind eye while you're busy trying to deport American citizens. And now I want to get back, reclaiming my time, to the second point that Senator Tillis made. You have not responded to him and the people of North Carolina about why you have picked up U.S. citizens. You've heard that from Representative Correa. Why you have intimidated people who are here lawfully, and why you are threatening the economy of one of the most prosperous states in this country by practicing malpractice. You should resign or be impeached. I yield back.
Chairman, may I answer that question? The state of North Carolina has received billions more in Helene relief disaster assistance than President Biden did. In fact, every single
because we appropriated the money.
Every project has been obligated. It's been paid out. The state manages the response, and those counties get their funding from the state, which has been allocated the FEMA dollars.
The gentleman from Virginia is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Secretary.
The moment unfolded with unmistakable intensity. A member of Congress leaned forward, voice rising, pressing the point again and again. The accusation was blunt, almost explosive. communities in western North Carolina, still reeling from the devastation of Hurricane Helen, had been left waiting. Waiting for relief, waiting for reimbursement, waiting for the federal government to move faster than the bureaucracy that seemed to hold them in limbo. In that exchange, the frustration was impossible to ignore. Homes destroyed, communities disrupted, local governments forced to drain their own budgets simply to keep essential services running. Public schools, emergency medical services, local health systems. For months, county officials had been stretching their resources thin, hoping the reimbursement promised by Washington would arrive before their own reserves collapsed. And yet, according to the argument raised in that hearing room, the federal funds that Congress had already approved, billions of dollars allocated for disaster recovery, were slow to reach the people who needed them most. The Congresswoman's voice carried the weight of that anger. The accusation was not merely about delay, it was about priorities. The moment crystallized into a single line that echoed through the chamber. Because we appropriated the money. That statement cut to the heart of the debate over government responsibility. Congress had acted. Legislators from both parties had approved a massive disaster relief package. The money had been authorized. The intent had been clear: help communities rebuild, help families recover, help local governments survive the aftermath of a catastrophe. But legislation is only the beginning. The American system is built on a delicate chain of responsibility. Congress authorizes the funds. Federal agencies distribute them. State governments coordinate responses. Local officials carry out the work on the ground. If any link in that chain slows down or breaks, the consequences are felt immediately, often by people who have already lost everything. In this hearing, the clash was not just between two individuals. It was a collision between competing narratives about leadership, accountability, and the machinery of government itself. On one side stood lawmakers arguing that the delays had created real hardship. Counties forced to shoulder costs they could not afford. Families living in uncertainty. Communities waiting for the support that Congress believed it had already delivered. On the other side stood the administration's defense, that funds had been allocated, that the process had been followed, that the state governments themselves play a central role in distributing disaster assistance. According to that explanation, the federal government had fulfilled its obligation. The resources were there. The system had functioned as designed. But in moments like this, the public is left with a deeper question. When disaster strikes, who ultimately carries the responsibility? Is it Congress, whose job is to authorize the funds? Is it federal agencies tasked with overseeing the flow of billions of dollars across dozens of programs? Is it the states which coordinate the response and pass resources down to counties and towns? Or is it, in the end, a shared responsibility, one where every delay, every bureaucratic hurdle, every miscommunication can leave ordinary Americans caught in the middle? That is the deeper story behind this confrontation. The hearing room becomes more than just a place for political disagreement. It becomes a stage where the American system is tested in real time. Lawmakers challenge administrators. Administrators defend their actions. Each side presents a version of events. And somewhere beyond the microphones and cameras, millions of citizens watch and decide for themselves where the truth lies. What makes moments like this so powerful is not simply the heated language. It is the reminder that the decisions made inside those hearing rooms carry consequences far beyond Washington. For a family still repairing their home, for a county trying to keep its budget afloat, for a community attempting to rebuild after a storm changed everything. The debate over disaster relief is ultimately a debate about trust. Trust that when Congress promises help, that help will arrive. Trust that government agencies will move with urgency. Trust that the system designed to protect citizens will work when it matters most. But trust, once shaken, is difficult to restore. That is why congressional oversight exists. It is why lawmakers question officials under oath. It is why hearings like this unfold in public view. The process may be loud. It may be uncomfortable. But it serves a critical purpose in a democratic system. ensuring that power remains accountable. Because in the United States, authority does not operate in silence. It is examined, it is challenged, it is debated in full view of the public. And sometimes in a single sentence spoken during a tense exchange, the entire tension of that system becomes visible. Because we appropriated the money. Those words echo as a reminder that democracy does not end when legislation passes. It continues in the implementation, in the oversight, in the questions that lawmakers ask when they believe something has gone wrong. Moments like this reveal both the strength and the strain of the American system. The strength lies in its openness, its willingness to expose disagreements and demand answers. The strain lies in the complexity of governing a nation where billions of dollars and millions of lives intersect through layers of policy and administration. For viewers watching this exchange, the takeaway is larger than the clash between a congresswoman and a cabinet secretary. It is a reminder that government is not an abstract institution. It is a network of decisions, responsibilities, and consequences that shape the daily lives of citizens across the country. When those decisions are questioned, when leaders are challenged, democracy is not weakening. It is functioning exactly as intended, but the ultimate judgment does not belong solely to the people inside the hearing room. It belongs to the public, to the citizens who expect transparency, to the voters who demand accountability, to the community still rebuilding after disaster and waiting for promises to become reality. That is the power of moments like this. They force a nation to pause and ask difficult questions about leadership, responsibility, and the true meaning of public service. Because in the end, government exists for one purpose above all else: to serve the people. And when the system is challenged, the people deserve answers. If you believe transparency matters, if you believe accountability in government should never stop, stay informed, stay engaged, and subscribe to Liberty Report USA for more in-depth coverage exposing the moments that shape the future of American leadership.